Have you ever wanted to join the world of tabletop miniature wargaming, but have no clue how to actually build your models? Well, you're in luck, because in this video, we walk through building your first plastic Games Workshop Warhammer model. The first task at hand is deciding what model you want to build. This decision must be made before you can do anything else, but don't stress. While I can't suggest which exact model I think you should pick, Games Workshop has a wide range of amazing models, so I'm sure you'll find one for you. I will suggest first looking at one of their many beginner sets, or one of their cost-saving start collecting boxes. However, don't limit yourself to only these options, they are just a great springboard for your collection. Next, we need to gather a few tools required to build your models. You will need a pair of sprue cutters, a hobby knife, a mold line remover, and some super glue or plastic glue. Sprue cutters are a pair of snippers specifically designed for cutting plastic sprues. There are several different cutters you can pick from, but it is key, your pair have a flat edge on one side of the blades. This way, you can position the clippers flush to the model and get a clean clip. Oh, and if you're wondering, this hunk of plastic is a sprue. A hobby knife, more commonly known as an X-Acto blade, is an all-around great tool, useful in many ways. There are many different types of hobby knife, but I prefer the traditional style. Just make sure, whatever you do, you are extremely careful, because you can do some serious damage, and flex tape ain't gonna fix that. A mold line remover is an optional tool, used to remove the extra plastic that sometimes appears on a model. While not necessary, it is highly recommended. However, all you really need is a thin piece of metal with a straight edge. The back of a key, an old spoon, or even your hobby knife will all do the trick. Some people even use fingernail files, sandpaper, or special hobby files. It's all personal preference, so really, go with whatever you have at hand. The last thing we need is glue. This is perhaps the most important item, and while there are several types of glue, really, we only have two viable options for building plastic miniature models. The two types are super glue and plastic glue. However, I cannot tell you which one you should choose, because each option has its pros and cons. This is because each glue works in a different way. Super glue binds the pieces, while plastic glue chemically melds the plastic together. I have experience with both, and both are good options, but for this tutorial, I am using super glue. Now that we have gathered all our tools, we need a place to actually do the work, aka our workstation. Any flat surface will do, but you need to make sure you have plenty of space, it is out of the way, and most importantly, it is comfortable. I have a spare computer desk I use, but this is a personal preference. Now that you have a place of your own, we need to do a little bit more prep work. But don't worry, not too much more. I will suggest that you cover your workstation with either a bit of cardboard or some newspaper. This way, we can prevent doing any damage to our table. Then, in an orderly manner, place your tools around your workstation for easy access. Now, after all that prep work, we can finally get to actually building your model. That may have seemed like a lot, but you're going to be happy you did all that prep work. You don't want to be halfway through a model and realize you are missing one of your many important tools. Now we can get to the fun part, but before you clip anything off, you need a plan. All Games Workshop Citadel models should come with a booklet with detailed instructions on how to put each figure together. I highly recommend giving it a good look over and following it closely. Once you have read the instructions, we can finally start clipping the first piece. Locate the piece, and with your clippers, flat side flush with the model, clip the sprue connector. Do this to each sprue connector until your first piece is completely detached from the sprue. Now, sometimes you need to clean a sprue cut. If this is the case, simply take your hobby knife and gingerly scrape the remaining plastic from the area. Remember, be very careful. You don't want to take a trip to the hospital, now do we? Next, locate the second piece on the sprue and clip it out likewise as you did the first piece. Make sure to clean off any excess plastic. Now that you have your first two pieces, it's time to glue them together. But wait a minute, don't just go ahead and glue those together all willy-nilly, you need to dry fit that first. Without any glue, first take your pieces and fit them together, how the directions say they should go. This way, we can get a good understanding of how the pieces should fit together, and can work out any kinks without the time limit of drying glue. See? Much better. Now that we know exactly how it fits, we can add glue. Take your glue and apply the tiniest amount to the sections that connect, just enough to get a slight covering. If you add too much, you might get overflow, and this can ruin the detail on your model. Now, quickly and carefully fit the pieces and hold them together with slight force. It will take a few minutes to dry, and can sometimes take up to 30 minutes if you are using plastic glue. However, you don't need to hold the model for the complete drying time. After a few minutes, you can gently set the model to the side and let it dry, using this time to clip out your next piece. Repeat the process of clipping and gluing until all parts are assembled. I should mention that some people do not assemble all parts of their model until after they have painted it. This is called subassembly. It is a technique useful for extremely detailed models and allows for painting parts of models that might be covered up by other parts after assembly. While this is an option, I would suggest that for your first models, you go with the complete assembly method, but it's entirely your choice. Also, Games Workshop has released several kits that are push to fit using a peg and hole design, meaning they do not require glue. In this case, you simply push the pieces together, lining the pegs in their corresponding holes, and the models stay connected without the use of any glue. Now that you have completed a model, we still need to put it on its base. Included with your model will be its corresponding base. Warhammer models now all use round or oval bases, but some older kits may still be sold with square or rectangular bases. If you do have a kit with the old bases and you want to game with your models, you will have to purchase the correct bases, but make sure you get the right size and shape for your models. There are also several aftermarket, specially designed and pre-textured bases that you can also use, but it's really up to your personal preference. Also, some models are designed to be used with a slot-in base. These bases have a specific design where a piece of the model slots perfectly in a pre-designed place. Most slot-in bases have a long, narrow slot in their base, but some newer designs utilize the push-to-fit, peg, and hole design. Also, most models are attached to the base by their feet, but some models have a clear plastic flight stand that produces the illusion of flight. Each model is different, so before you start gluing, make sure you understand how your model is supposed to attach to its base and what base type and size is meant for your model. Now that we have our model and its corresponding base, we can finally glue them together. But like before, we want to dry fit the model to the base so we can find the correct positioning. You want the model to be as centered to the base as possible, but some models are designed to be a little askew. After a few tries, you will find what feels right and looks best to you. When this is the case, simply apply a small amount of glue to the connecting pieces, and with the base flat to the workstation, hold the model on the base and allow it to dry. Again, the drying time will vary from glue to glue, so be patient and gentle. You don't want to break the bonds of the adhesive before it has had time to properly dry. Great job, you have successfully constructed your model, but there are a few things you might want to consider to make sure your model is the best it can be. This is where your mold line remover tool comes to play. Because of how plastic sprues are manufactured, there can occasionally be extra plastic attached to your model. You don't have to remove these imperfections, but if you want your models to look their best, it's highly recommended. To remove these lines, you simply take your mold line remover and gently scrape the model, removing the extra plastic. You can also do this step with sandpaper, files, or a hobby knife. But be careful, applying too much pressure can damage your model and potentially hurt yourself. Again, congratulations on building your model. You now have a gray plastic warrior ready to do battle. Repeat these processes and build your own army of gray plastic. But there is always additional work you can do to make your models even better. Some people will kit bash or convert models to their liking. They do this by adding parts from several kits to make unique custom models that express the creator's vision for their army. However, be aware that some players may get a little testy if your models are not WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get, so make the decision for yourself. Lastly, while your model is built, there is still a few steps you need to take before it is tabletop ready. While you can play with gray plastic at home, some stores and players will insist your models be painted. While that is past the scope of this video, it is something I would recommend you consider if you are interested in Warhammer for the long haul. But really, it's your decision on how in depth you want to explore this amazing hobby. I hope this video has been a helpful priming undercoat of knowledge for your progressive base coats of development and leads to highlighting details of hobby progression. If it has, feel free to like the video and subscribe for more hobby-related content. And if you have any questions or ideas for further topics, feel free to leave a comment. I'm Kordan, and until we meet again, you yourself have a wonderful day.